what inspired you to get into acting?
What matters is the story and how you craft it.
You've answered a lot of the questions already with that one answer, so that's fine.
They say I love the man a lot, but I really did. I loved him on Cheers when I was a kid, and in the early 90s, I would have parties at my house. We'd come over and drink beer and watch Frasier, and then I moved to Los Angeles and ended up working with him, and people were like, "How did you manage that? How did you do that?" Because I really was a big fan of his.
Please subscribe to us on YouTube and follow us on your favorite podcasting platform. Thank you.
Hi there, so welcome to Film Forums. My name is Aisha Jbeli and I'm here with a special guest. Could you introduce yourself for us?
I'm Reggie Hayes from the Girlfriends television show, played William. I was on the show Heart of Dixie for 9 episodes. I don't know if you get that over there. I acted around NCIS and, Criminal Minds and things like that.
So can you tell us a little bit about your career, how you got into acting in the first place? Did you go to drama school or did you come up kind of just through almost accidental roles?
Yes, I studied theater at Illinois State University. I'd always wanted to be an actor. I studied acting in high school. I started when I was, 17, and continued from there. I've always wanted to be on television, though.
Yeah. So
Yes.
what was, did you do a lot of theater or did you go straight into TV and film?
I did a lot of theater, a lot of improv around Chicago. There's an opportunity to do a lot of acting it's non-union, so it's a lot of storefront theater. And where it's like we get a little space and put on a show. There's tons of that if you want to do it. And then after those shows, I would go and normally do a late night show, kind of like an improv show, with some cohorts of mine. It was called Bang Bang. The group included Michael Shannon. He acts a lot. He's been nominated for a couple of awards, And Tracy Letts, he's a writer. He's done a few things, Paul Dillon. I was back in the early 90s, so that was a while ago. And we moved out here to Los Angeles to do a show called Hellcat, which ended up becoming a movie. And I ended up staying out here instead of going back to Chicago.
Wow, okay. And then it kind of just went from strength to strength. How did you get your first agent?
My first agent in Los Angeles came to see the play I was in, Hellcab. And they said that we liked the guy, we liked Reggie. And they sent me a letter or they gave me a ring and it worked out pretty well. It doesn't work out that well it's really difficult in Los Angeles to procure an agent. So I've been very fortunate. I don't know how it went so easily. I really have to thank God.
Well, you obviously stood out, in your show. That's obviously what got their attention. You hear a lot of people who got their agent that way, where someone's come to see them in theater or something like that. And then other people, for example, myself, I haven't done so much theater. I've mostly done indie film. So for me, the biggest thing was just, like emailing out submissions, and just persevering until somebody finally was interested in me,
Right.
So there are lots of different routes, to the same end, but it's always nice to hear, what other people's catalysts were, in their career.
Take some acting classes. That's the best. Take a class that allows you to get up and perform a little. Some classes are really big and maybe overcrowded. You might not get an opportunity to do it. But anyone that really lets you get your feet wet, lets you participate. I think that's the best. That's the best thing that happened for me. Well, I did. I got a degree in it over 4 years. So, but it's there's nothing like it. If you're just great looking and decide to do it, and it could be such a shock, to just everything that they prepare you for, all the advice and all the help and everything. It's you can't replace that.
Do you have any favorite like acting methods, for example? Do you subscribe to any particular styles of acting?
I use the method, listening carefully and internalizing the situations and letting it affect me, and forgetting myself and allowing me to respond emotionally, honestly to the situation. I do that. But see, that all comes from practice. You gotta practice that. You can't just move to Los Angeles, and I guess some people can, but it's stuff you would never really think of. I remember you get Seinfeld over there, don't you?
Yeah, we do. Yeah.
The one point I remember was when George Costanza said, "It's not a lie if you believe it's true." So it's like you're not really acting; you really believe what's going on. That's how I do it. It's like if the scene ends, I'm still in it. I guess I'm guilty of that a lot. Where if I'm angry at the people I'm acting with, and I'm angry when they say cut, or I'm still very upset, or I'm very much in love with the person, and then I have to stop myself. That maybe that's a mental problem that I have, but I really get into it.
Yeah, I mean it's quite common though. You've got method actors that really do take on the whole thing, and they want to stay in it like for the duration of the shoot and things. And then you've got other actors that just want to drop it at the set and that's it, leave it there. So everyone has their way, yes.
But then so Laurence Olivier said, it's just pretending. It's not that much method at all. So it depends on what works for you.
You were talking a lot about your improvisation classes and things like that, and the groups that you were part of. Would you say that contributed a lot to your ability to take on comedy to the extent that you did? Because obviously you're a fantastic comedy actor. You're a fantastic actor anyway, but like particularly comedy, the timing, is definitely something. And I'm just wondering where that come from. Was it something you always had, or something that you strengthened?
It strengthened it definitely, but I've always been a funny kid. I was a class clown type, and I got in a lot of trouble when I was younger. I was just I would listen to the teacher and try and think of some way to make fun of what they said or make a joke. I tried to do it in a sweet way so I wouldn't get into that much trouble. But yeah, I was always a funny one, or one of the funny ones.
Yeah.
And it helped, get along with the other kids, and I moved around a little bit, and it helps you it helped me get along. My father was very funny, and I hang out with him. I just noticed how people were just excited when he would come in the room, or the people started having a better time when he was around. So I was like, this is a way to get along in life. I remember thinking that.
That's lovely. So was your dad quite a big inspiration for you then growing up?
Yeah, he was. He was in publishing though. He wasn't really a performer, but definitely I spent a lot of time with him when I was. He died when I was 14, but until then I spent a lot of time with him, and I took a lot of his. I molded myself a lot after his person.
Yeah, that's that's lovely. I mean, obviously, especially losing him so young as well. It's good that you're able to hold on to those memories.
Yeah, a lot of good memories.
Yeah, and obviously, as I told you via Twitter, I am a massive fan of Girlfriends, and I have been since it was out originally. I watched it back in like 2000, 2001, whatever. Was crazy.
Were we on the BBC?
I can't remember what channel it was on, but I remember watching it with my family, and it was just fantastic. And then when I saw it pop up on my Netflix recently, I was like, I have to rewatch this. Like, this is good, So I rewatched it, binge watched it, like really badly.
Did it hold up for you?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, like it's all over again. Why I love it. I think culturally speaking, obviously, the US and the UK are quite different, but a lot of the issues that you touch on in the show it's a comedy, but there's some really serious things that are discussed and that are really unpacked in the show, which I think one of the reasons it resonated with myself and so many other people. And your character was my absolute favorite. I love William. Yeah, so honestly, like, see, when you replied to me on Twitter, I just about jumped out my seat. I was like, oh my goodness, because I have my crazy fangirl moment, allow me. But yeah, so like, for you being like the fifth girlfriend in a lot of ways, like, I know you're the guy, but you weren't really in a lot of ways, like, how did you find that? Like, did it like, have you had friendships like that, where you're so close that literally, you really get the inside scoop on women,
Absolutely. I went through periods of my life where, most of my friends are men, and then you kind of get tired of that, and then I just started to gravitate toward hanging out with women as I got older. So most of my friends now are women. There's just more kind of support and less like jealousy and competition. And I think just men just do that normally. They rank each other and they put each other down kind of good naturedly, but it's kind of, I'm a sensitive guy and it's kind of rough. And I don't know. I always liked being the only man in a group full of women. And it's because there's a whole lot of, oh, Reggie, no. And I just eat all that up. And I have two older sisters, and my mother died when I was 4, so I was kind of raised a lot by women, and I came up around a lot of women, so I just really I felt really comfortable with it, personally.
Yeah, I think there's definitely a lot of benefit to that. I think that society would be a lot better if men and women understood each other more.
I think so. Yeah. We play these roles, and a lot of parts in those roles don't suit us at all. Kind of the meanness or the cattiness or there's a lot of it that really is not not a very good idea.
It's not conducive, is it?
No.
But in terms of girlfriends, did you have any favorite plot lines? Like, what issues were really important to you that were discussed on the show? They dealt with a lot of things, like interracial relationships and what women of color go through on a day-to-day basis in terms of judgment, employment, the fact that Joan couldn't get the step up, that she deserved. And your character also almost didn't get that until you threw a hissy fit. Like, all of those kind of things I thought were really important to show, because no one else was doing that at the time, like, no one else was talking about those issues. So I think for me anyway, like, I'm mixed race myself, so growing up, I'm not mixed race Black, but I'm North African, so we're incredibly mixed anyway. So kind of like in the Caribbean, there's a lot of ethnicities mixed there. So for us growing up, we grew up in a small, very white town, very racist town as well, might I say. And
in Scotland?
Yeah. It's not like that now. Like, honestly, people here now are so open-minded. It's crazy how far things have come in a short period of time.
Yeah.
But yes, when we're going back 20 years ago, it was horrible to be,
really?
in small town. Yeah, awful. So, like, for us, a lot of shows like Girlfriends really resonated with us because we were different, as well.
Sure.
There's a lot of crossover, I think, for all women of color, no matter what background you are, if you know what I mean. But yeah, for us, we might as well have been Black according to our town, you know what I mean? But we really we weren't, quite clearly, But a different.
There's a saying here where one drop of Black blood makes you one. So, no matter what color you are.
Yeah, no, I know. I think it was just closed-mindedness back then. People just really didn't know any better. They were quite ignorant. But now it's very different. Now it's, Scotland is a lot more open-minded in many ways than England, even though England is maybe more culturally diverse. politically and things like that, we're just more open in general, like to immigration and things like that as well. So
Right.
yeah, it's much, much better now. People don't even know that I'm mixed race anymore until I say my name, and then they're like, "Oh, what are you?" You know?
Oh, right, right.
Yeah.
I
But-
loved Scotland so much, and I was there. I always think I was in Edinburgh during a theater festival, so that was probably more left wing than just out of the countryside. But there was just so much warmth there for me. I felt so welcome.
yeah. And
I want to go back someday.
oh, you should definitely. You should come. I mean, there's so much to see in Scotland. It's really a beautiful country, and I'm not just saying that because I'm from here. There's, it's stunning, I would say. But yeah. So back to obviously your career after Girlfriends. What was your next steps? What did you want to do after that? Because it ended quite abruptly. I was a little bit unhappy. I'm not going to lie with the ending.
Yeah, that was not the best ending. There was a writer's strike that occurred, and I guess that was 2007, and all production stopped for about a year or so, maybe even close to 2 years, and we just didn't come back to it. We had maybe 9 episodes to finish, and we never did. Never did.
Yeah.
I was hoping that we would. I was hoping that, I still am hoping
Yeah.
that maybe Netflix is gonna they do the short series over there, and maybe they'll pick up the last, but I'm not sure if they're having that conversation or not. Please listen, Netflix. I love you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. Please, Netflix, give us Girlfriends back. I know some of the others have done interviews recently as well, and they've said the same thing. It would be so good to have a final season or even a film, just to tie up the loose ends and show us where everyone is now.
It would be very nice, yeah. But
Do
I'm
you?
hoping.
Yeah. Do you think your character would still be with Monica then, this many years later? Do you think that would have worked out?
I don't know. It was in the beginning. I don't know if you remember in the beginning. She was quite wicked.
Oh yeah.
In the beginning, and I don't know if she had quite a little change there, and I don't know how deep the that wickedness goes in her, and I don't know if maybe that surface, they have a baby and then maybe things don't work out, or maybe William ends up with Joan again.
Well, they didn't really work though when they did get together.
Well, we're so similar, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah.
That you would think, if you're going to spend the rest of your life with somebody, it
Yeah.
would be someone who would not think that I was so goofy or so so wrong and the things that I like doing, or like my instincts and what to say.
Yeah.
But
You seem so compatible, you know what I mean? Like, compatible, like in many ways, obviously, because a best friend is like that as well. My best friend is a guy as well. We've been best friends for like, I don't know, 8 years or something. And when I was rewatching the show, I actually messaged him and I was like, "You're my William," because we just tell each other everything. We have the most ridiculous gossip sessions ever. But like, I don't know. I was really sad when it didn't work out with you and Joan, because like when that actually started to come together, I was like, oh, okay, actually, yeah, that would be really sweet, But then the chemistry isn't there, and that's, I think, what happens a lot with friendships.
Yeah, it was weird romantically. I don't think so. But I don't know. You take a look at someone, 10, 20 years down the line, and then you start looking at the difference. And I don't know. Maybe I just want to date Tracy. I think maybe that's it. Long romance to finally be realized. But a lot of times that happens. You take a second look at a friend of yours, and it works out later in life.
Yeah. Were you intimidated at all to work with Tracy? Obviously, with who her mum is and everything like that. Was that like a little bit daunting at first, or were you just like happy to be there and confident?
I just like working with Tracy. She's very good at at her craft, and
Yeah.
such a great sense of humor and good person. I really lucked out to be on that show. There's the luck, no matter how you prepare for it, you can't, prepare yourself into a show like that. It's just luck.
I was even surprised because the first time I watched it, I didn't really think about this, but watching the credits, this time around, Kelsey Grammer being the executive producer, how did that come around,
Yeah, that was really heady for me. We say I love the man a lot, but I really did. I loved him on Cheers when I was a kid, and in the early '90s, I would have parties at my house. We'd come over and drink beer and watch Frasier, and then I moved to Los Angeles and ended up working with him. And people were like, "How did you manage that? How did you do that?" That's incredible. Because I really was a big fan of his.
Yeah.
And I'm glad he was in the auditions. I'm glad I didn't realize that he was there. He had glasses on. Otherwise, I probably wouldn't have done a good job if I'd have seen him sitting there. I'm a very nervous guy. And but so I just looked. I mean, I knew there was a white guy there, but I didn't realize what was going on. I didn't realize that was him until like later, like the second or third audition. There was like 3 or 4 auditions.
So there was a lot of processes. Did you know who you were up against? Like who else was competing for your role? Were you aware of that?
They told me everybody in town they had read, every black guy in town, pretty much.
God.
But I think Mara and her husband Celine had seen me in another show I was on with Vivica Fox and Elliot Gould, maybe like a year or so before. It was short-lived, maybe like 17 episodes. It was called Getting Personal, where I played a really geeky guy, super geeky guy. You might not have seen it because it wasn't enough to be syndicated. But they were like, hey, we're looking for maybe someone who's not that socially awkward, but, a guy that's not, like a soul brother type guy, they call him. So they kind of had their radar up for me when I had come in. And, but I was, it was just really the planets were so aligned for that.
Have you thought about doing much behind the camera, or have you already done quite a bit behind the camera? Would you think about producing or writing your own thing, for example?
I wrote a little bit. I wrote an episode of a show called Femme Fatales that was on, I don't know if you have Cinemax over there. I'll send you a copy. But it's hard. I'm a lazy man. Directing is so hard. I just like doing my part and getting the hell out of there, having a drink at the pub, after it's done. But they're just, you do your part, and you're like, oh, I'm exhausted. And they're still there with someone else doing more scenes. And then they got to go and do the editing, and they got to they're all night long. I could never hold that up. But I would like to produce. I'm trying to produce something over there in the UK because I love the UK so much. Yeah. I'm talking to some people. I'm trying to get something together because I would love to come over there. I love the United Kingdom so much.
Yeah.
It's in the sketchy phase. But see, it's that hard work thing you got to put in with the writing.
Yes. I mean, I think creatives, we're into lots of different things. We like to put our fingers in a lot of pies, and that's not a bad thing. That's why I wanted to know, if you were doing anything else, behind the camera as well. But it was an absolute pleasure having you on.
Oh, I love meeting you. Let's stay in touch and put something together.
Please subscribe to us on YouTube and follow us on your favorite podcasting platform. Thank you.